Everybody, welcome to today's hybrid New York City Council meeting of the Committee on Consumer Protection. Please place electronic devices to vibrate or silent. If you wish to submit testimony, you may send it to testimony@council.nyc.gov. Again, that's testimony@council.nyc.gov. Thank you for your cooperation. Chair, we are ready to begin.
Nope. Let's start this all over. All right, let's do it. Good morning. I am Councilmember Marjorie Velasquez, Chair of the Committee on Consumer and Worker Protection, and I'd like to welcome you to our legislative hearing today on Intro 506, sponsored by Councilmember Carlina Rivera by request of my own Bronx Borough President, Vanessa L. Gibson, in relation to requiring the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection to report information on pregnancy services centers in the city and to implement an information campaign on such centers. As we are well aware, this past May, a draft opinion of the Supreme Court's plan to strike down Roe v. Wade was leaked to the press. This draft opinion overturning Roe will end federal constitutional protections for abortion rights. I was horrified to read the news of the Supreme Court's opinion. Basic reproductive rights and a woman's right to have control over her own body will no longer be the law of the land in the United States. This decision is a regression of fundamental liberties, and it is expected that over half of the U.S. states will prohibit all or virtually all abortions. An increase in maternal deaths is expected, which will likely be disproportionately impacted to women of color like myself. There are truly no words that can describe the horrible consequences of this decision. Thankfully, New York State is where we have a right to choose, and it will not be threatened. In response to news of the Supreme Court's overturning of Roe v. Wade, the state legislature enacted a package of legislation to protect abortion rights. And the City Council is hearing legislation across numerous committees to enhance access to reproductive care. Nonetheless, many New Yorkers are unaware that there are unlicensed and unregulated centers in New York that purport to provide reproductive care but are actually secretly promoting their own anti-choice mission. Pregnancy Service Centers, or PSCs, provide free pregnancy testing to patients seeking reproductive care. Employees working at PSCs, while not licensed clinicians, often wear white coats and see women in exam rooms to further give the false appearance that they are legitimate medical facilities. Many PSCs in New York City also have names that sound like certified reproductive health clinics, such as Expectant Mother Care and Pregnancy Resource Services, and are located across the street from Planned Parenthoods. This practice makes it purposely difficult for New Yorkers to recognize PSCs, which, unlike medical providers who treat pregnant women and are subject to rigorous oversight by the State Department of Health, are not regulated by the government. Pregnancy service centers, while often alluding to provide comprehensive reproductive care, engage in deceptive health counseling. PSCs have been found to suggest a link between abortion and serious mental health problems, despite multiple studies invalidating this assertion. PSCs cite debunked medical literature showing an association between abortion and breast cancer, and often portray abortion, as a dangerous or even deadly. PSCs in New York have been known to delay appointments with clients multiple times in an attempt to prolong the process, past a point by when a woman can have access to a safe abortion. While abortion is not under attack legislatively in New York City, PSCs are an insidious industry seeking to impair New Yorkers' access to safe and quality reproductive care. In 2011, the City Council enacted Local Law 17 of 2011, which required PSCs to make a number of disclosures to patients to improve transparency and accountability of these centers. The Council's law was challenged, however, and a majority of the mandated disclosures were held to be in violation of the First Amendment. Given that PSCs therefore continue to go mostly unregulated, I am proud that we are hearing Intro 506, sponsored by Councilmember Rivera. Under the bill, DCWP will be required to submit a report to the mayor and the speaker of the council on pregnancy service centers operating in the city. This report would include information on the names and locations of the centers, the services they provide, and how they advertise themselves to the public. DCWP would have to submit the first report no later than March 15, 2024, and every 5 years thereafter. DCWP will be required to send a voluntary informational survey to pregnancy service centers in the city to help inform the report. Perhaps most importantly, the bill will also require DCWP to implement an informational media campaign about pregnancy service centers in English and in Spanish no later than 6 months after submitting the first report required by the bill. New Yorkers often do not know that they are entering a PSC when they walk inside one. The informational media campaign will therefore educate New Yorkers about PSCs, providing city residents with essential education and awareness that these centers are not licensed medical facilities. This bill, in conjunction with the recently signed State Bill A5499S470, directs the State of Commissioner of Health to study PSCs, and it will equip policymakers with key information on the number of PSCs and the services that they are providing. I look forward to hearing from the administration and advocates today about this bill, including ways it can be improved to protect New Yorkers and ensure all women have access to safe and quality reproductive care. With that said, I'd like to thank my central staff team, Senior Counsel Stephanie Jones, Senior Policy Analyst Noah Meixler, I got it right this time, y'all, and my Chief of Staff, Nick Rillison, and Deputy Chief of Staff, Alex Anderson, for their hard work. I'll now turn it over to, my bad. I forgot to announce my colleagues that I've been joined by Councilmember Boucher and Councilmember Menon. And now I'm going to turn it back to my moderator, Noah.
Thank you, Chair. I am Noah Meixler, Legislative Policy Analyst at the New York City Council. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone that this is a hybrid hearing. For members of the public joining virtually, you will be on mute until you're called on to testify, at which point you will be unmuted by the host. Please listen for your name to be called, as I will periodically be announcing who the next panelists will be. At this hearing, we will first be inviting testimony from the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, followed by members of the public. At this time, I will administer the affirmation. Members of the administration, please raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions? Thank you. You may begin.
Good morning, Chair Velasquez and members of the Committee on Consumer and Worker Protection. I am Steve Etanani, Executive Director for External Affairs at the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, or DCWP. I'm joined today by my colleague Michael Tiger, our General Counsel. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today before the committee on Introduction 506 relating to Pregnancy Services Centers, or PSCs. This administration is fully committed to protecting access to reproductive health care services for New Yorkers. Furthermore, we stand alongside our partners in the Council to ensure access to reproductive health and abortion is strengthened in New York City, and that we are a haven for those in need of safe health care options. Advocates describe, quote, crisis pregnancy centers, or, quote, pregnancy resource centers, as facilities that focus on diverting or preventing people who are or may be pregnant from accessing medical care, including abortions. According to advocates, these businesses accomplish this by imitating the advertising of abortion-providing health clinics, locating themselves near abortion-providing health clinics, providing false information about abortion to pregnant people, and misleading people about how many weeks they may have been pregnant. According to the city's Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, the above tactics can endanger the health of pregnant people by leaving them unaware of their reproductive health options and misinformed about the state and health of their pregnancy. These tactics also deter people who are pregnant from accessing legitimate reproductive health care that they otherwise would have sought out. Pursuant to Local Law 17 of 2011, a PSC is legally defined as a business that, one, appears to be a medical facility or carries out prenatal care, and 2, is not a licensed medical facility and does not have a licensed medical provider on site supervising services. DCWP is empowered to inspect PSCs for disclosure requirements that state they do not have a medical provider on site and do not provide abortion care, and that they do not share health and personal information without a client's consent. DCWP investigates and responds to every complaint that it receives about PSCs. The agency has worked with elected officials and the nonprofit sector to facilitate complaints, identify potential PSCs, and inspect PSCs for potential violations. Since 2017, the agency has received 59 complaints alleging violations of the PSC law, conducted 53 inspections, and issued 2 summonses for illegal activity by a PSC. Since 2021, we have received 2 complaints, and subsequent investigations determined that the facilities fell outside of the scope of the law because there were medical professionals supervising the provided services. Turning to today's legislation, Introduction 506 would require DCWP, in partnership with the Health Department and any other organization at our discretion, to submit a report on PSCs operating in New York City. The report would include information on the locations of PSCs, the services they provide, and the way they advertise themselves to the public. It would also require the city to examine the healthcare needs of pregnant women, the ability of PSCs to meet those needs, and the impact of PSCs on women being able to gain timely access to healthcare. DCWP would be mandated to design a survey, which PSCs would voluntarily submit to inform the report. Following completion of the report, DCWP, in consultation with the Health Department, would be required to implement a media campaign to raise awareness among women about PSCs. DCWP is committed to supporting New Yorkers' safe and timely access to all of the reproductive health care to which they are legally entitled. To that end, DCWP looks forward to working with the Council, as well as with our sister agency, the Health Department, to ensure that any reporting on PSCs is able to capture the vital information New Yorkers need to be well informed, and that it works in concert with other reporting requirements in Council's reproductive rights legislative package. This includes Introduction 465, sponsored by Councilmember Caban, relating to a report on the provision of medical services related to reproductive care. Similarly, we are looking forward to working with Council to harmonize the media campaign contemplated by this bill with the ones contemplated by 2 other bills in this package. Introduction 478, sponsored by Councilmember Hudson, relating to an outreach and education campaign on the benefits and services provided by doulas and midwives, and Introduction 474, sponsored by Councilmember Hanif, relating to a public information and outreach campaign regarding safe access to reproductive health care. We believe it is important that media campaigns communicate a cohesive message to New Yorkers regarding reproductive health resources that are safe and accessible, as well as informed by the public health professionals at the Health Department. Again, I would like to thank the Council for holding today's hearing and for introducing its suite of legislation relating to reproductive rights that better protect New Yorkers. I look forward to any questions you may have.
Thank you for that. While I gather my questions, here we go. You had mentioned the violations. How do I go about reporting a pregnancy service center and their acts? Let's say I'm looking for an abortion and I, by accident, get here. How do I report it?
Thank you for the question. There are a myriad of ways that you can file a complaint with our agency. Of course, 311 is one option. We have a consumer complaint form that you can fill out that we distribute at outreach events, and that's found on our website as well. Of course, Councilmember, we rely on your office and your colleagues' offices and the caseworkers that are hearing from folks on the ground to bring complaints and referrals to us. And of course, we work with advocacy organizations to bring complaints, to surface those complaints with our agency as well.
So do you proactively inspect, or is it only based on complaints?
Thank you for the question. Our essentially the underlying statute of this bill has a very narrow definition of what a pregnancy service center is. Advocates often speak to crisis pregnancy centers, for example, that encompass a wider range of centers citywide. For us, and what's defined in statute, if you do not have a medical service provider, you are a pregnancy service center, for example, but if you do, it would fall outside the scope of the definition under the law. So what that means functionally in terms of our ability to identify these centers is that it's extremely hard. We rely on advocates. We rely on, again, your offices and constituents in your districts and what caseworkers are able to surface to bring complaints to us.
And so one of the interesting parts about this, it's voluntary, right? That they have to come to you. And what we need to decide is how are we performing our own outreach and how we can work in conjunction with your offices. Is there a plan for that?
Absolutely. I think I would be remiss not to mention that this legislative package that you and your colleagues have introduced and that the speaker spoke so eloquently to in her State of the City represents a unique opportunity in this time to re-engage with New Yorkers affirmatively and in very real terms about the consequences of not knowing your rights, and also about all the misinformation that's out there. I think this legislation, Intro 506, provides, is it indicative of the right track in terms of an information and media campaign. And I think a cohesive message citywide is something that we are extremely supportive of.
Thank you for that. And so just wanted to get to it. Me, a New Yorker, I enter a pregnancy service center seeking reproductive services, right? And there's no medical provider within that center. I can file a complaint, right, with DCWP, right, if I feel like I'm a victim. What is the time period? Is there a time period like immediately? Do I wait a week? Can I go back after, like, let's say I go mistakenly to a PSC, but then I go to a Planned Parenthood afterwards, and I realize what has happened? Is there a timeline or a defined time where I can go back to you guys, or no?
I'll turn to my general counsel here.
No, you can always come to us with a complaint, and this goes across all the categories of businesses that we investigate. But something here, especially in a situation where we understand that women are in fraught situations when they're trying to make difficult reproductive health choices, there's certainly not a timeline that would make a complaint stale, especially on the time horizon that you're discussing. And I think that we would welcome to hear from New Yorkers and hear from advocates about any complaints along those lines, and I think that would help us fashion our enforcement strategy.
Thank you for that. I know Governor Hochul just signed the bill mandating the State Commissioner of Health to conduct a study on pregnancy service centers. Is DCWP prepared to partner and utilize this information, and how do you see that working out?
Thank you for the question. The city was supportive of the legislation that the governor recently signed, and I think that we at DCWP are looking forward to the reporting from the Commissioner of Health. I believe there's a task force contemplated with other stakeholders to inform a number of different items that I think will be extremely beneficial to our work. As my colleague Mike Tiger mentioned, that will inform an enforcement strategy potentially and things of that nature. I know our colleagues at the Health Department have been tracking that legislation more closely. We can probably speak a little bit more to the details of the bill than us here.
Thanks. And so do you have a sense of how many of these centers exist in the city, or which boroughs have the highest concentrations of these centers?
Thanks for the question, Council Member. So tracking efforts by advocates estimate approximately 20 businesses across the 5 boroughs that provide crisis pregnancy center services. However, it's likely that many of those locations fall outside the definition of the Pregnancy Service Center law by either providing only counseling services or having a licensed medical provider supervising services. For us, and what I was kind of alluding to with some of my prior answers, is that this is a very adaptable constituency, unfortunately. We've encountered instances where, businesses will bring on a medical provider, so they fall outside of the law. And for us, it's unsure how many PSCs as defined in statute exist in the city. It could very well be 0 right now. So that is kind of the lay of the land that we're working with.
Got it. So Intro 506 requires you all to report information on pregnancy service centers, including the names, locations, and the services they provide and how they advertise themselves. Can you describe any challenges you foresee in occurring within the agency to conduct this study?
Sure. I think first and foremost, what I just mentioned, the identifying centers that actually fall under the statute definitionally, is a primary concern for us. That said, I think that there are a number of different ways that our agency can potentially identify a scope of businesses that could fall under the definition, and our staff will identify those certainly by working with advocates, utilizing social media and a whole host of other resources to ensure that we're putting that survey out to folks and making sure that we're following the law.
If enacted, Intro 506 will require DCWP to implement the information campaign on pregnancy service centers, right? So I think that's the key. It's educating folks, right? But it's at a minimum in Spanish and English. If the bill is passed, can the administration commit to producing the campaign in the city's official 10 languages?
Thank you for the question, Council Member. Language access is of a huge priority for our agency, has been for quite some time, and certainly under our commissioner currently. What I alluded to in my testimony today is that in addition to language access, having a cohesive message out there to New Yorkers is imperative. I think this legislative package is going to offer a unique opportunity for us to utilize all apparatus of city government, including our public engagement unit and others, to meet New Yorkers where they are, and of course that includes meeting them with their language capacities. That's of first and foremost importance.
And I think my last question here is, given DCWP's knowledge of legal barriers that prevent enforcement of laws, regulating PSCs, as you had said, identifying them is the hardest piece. Do you have any creative ideas on how the administration can limit PSCs and their impact on New Yorkers?
So I think Introduction 506 is a great first step. I think bridging that information gap that exists with New Yorkers potentially is so important, especially when there's misinformation in the space. As always, we're happy to work with the council on any additional ideas and concepts to make sure that we have the best crafted laws to protect reproductive rights in the city.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to Councilmember Menon.
Thank you so much. So I was really interested in this hearing. I was commissioner when this crisis pregnancy law was first implemented, so I really appreciated your testimony, and I fully support Intro 506. I just had a couple questions. Has the agency thought about doing a hotline for complaints, so that just particularly given this environment that we're in, that might lead to more people coming forward with issues that they're having?
Thank you for the question, Council Member. We haven't specifically thought of a hotline for this particular issue. I will mention that there's already so many different options for consumers and New Yorkers to reach us. Adding another layer to that could potentially, confuse folks, but this is, something that we would consider for sure.
Okay. And also, I was interested in the fact that there were 59 complaints, 53 inspections, and 2 summons for illegal activity. So of the other complaints where there wasn't a summons, what was the nature of those complaints and the agency's findings?
Sure. I'll turn it over to Mike Tiger.
Yeah, I don't have obviously a granular of every single complaint, but I think speaking broadly, council member, sometimes the complaints when you have to talk about 59, many of them were about single locations. So when we say that there were 2 summonses, they were a result of multiple inspections that there were resulting from multiple complaints. So there's not a one-to-one tracking between complaint, inspection, summons as far as if you look at location by location. Sometimes they did not, when we did our investigation, both in-house at 42 Broadway from the General Counsel Division, looking online at what the sites were, what sort of services the sites were providing, or when our enforcement team went out in the field to the actual locations, it was determined, as my colleague mentioned, that the location may have fallen outside of the statutory definition of a pregnancy service center. Either that they were only providing counseling services and did not actually have the appearance of a licensed medical facility when we actually went to investigate, or that they had a licensed medical professional, which just to remind the committee does not necessarily mean a doctor. It can be any licensed medical professional. If they're directly supervising the services, they fall outside the definition of the law. And so
Right.
I can't say, again, one for one every single complaint that we got, but those are broadly speaking were the issues that came up as we were conducting our investigations.
And given all the legal impediments and the case law on this, which I know you're so familiar with, are there any creative ideas that the administration has to try to limit the effect of these centers on New Yorkers?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned to the chair, we're more than happy to work with council on different concepts and ideas, but I think those conversations would probably be best to have with the law department as well as a party, given what you had just mentioned.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Of course.
All right, I'll turn it back to the moderator to public testimony.
Thank you, members of the administration, and thank you, Chair. We will now turn to public testimony. I'd like to remind everyone that, unlike our typical council hearings, we will be calling individuals one by one to testify. We will be limiting each panelist's speaking time to 3 minutes. For panelists joining this hearing virtually, once your name is called, a member of our staff will unmute you, and the Sergeant at Arms will set the 3-minute timer and give you the go-ahead to begin. Please wait for the sergeant to announce you may begin before delivering your testimony. I would like to now welcome the Bronx Borough President, Honorable Vanessa L. Gibson, to testify. After the Bronx Borough President, I will next be calling on Mariam Muhammad Miller to testify. Bronx Borough President.
I want to acknowledge that we've been joined by Councilmember Ose and Councilmember Abreu.
Apologies, everyone. It seems like we're having some technological difficulties, so we'll move on to the next panelist and then return back to the Borough President. So at this time, I will call on Mariam Muhammad Miller to testify. After Mariam Muhammad Miller, I will next be calling on Danielle Castaldi Mika. Mariam?
Time starts now.
Thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Mariam Muhammad Miller, and I'm the Director of Government Relations at Planned Parenthood of Greater New York. I would like to thank the Chair of the Committee on Consumer and Worker Protection, Councilmember Marjorie Velasquez, for holding this important hearing, as well as Councilmember Carlina Rivera and all the bill sponsors for introducing and championing Intro 506 legislation that would help our city have access to comprehensive, medically accurate information and resources to make informed decisions about their health and their lives. Planned Parenthood of Greater New York is a trusted provider for sexual and reproductive health care and has offered care to New Yorkers for over 100 years. We aim to provide care to all New Yorkers, no matter their background. We strongly support Intro 506 that will help the city better understand how limited service pregnancy centers or crisis pregnancy centers function and their impact on access to comprehensive, medically accurate healthcare. For many years, we have seen the harmful impact of crisis pregnancy centers or CPCs and how they've impacted our patients seeking healthcare at our health centers. The bill today would help the city launch a study to better understand again how they operate, as well as requiring the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection to launch a public education campaign and raise awareness of CPCs in our communities. Similar to recent legislation that was passed on the state levels, the study of CPCs will help us curb the deceptive and often misleading tactics they employ to delay and deny an individual's access to abortion care. We have heard repeatedly how our patients who mistakenly end up in CPCs were lied to, harassed, and pressured out of seeking abortion care. As was mentioned earlier, CPCs often use deceptive tactics to lure people into their facilities. This includes modeling themselves after legitimate healthcare facilities, also having staff dressed as nurses and providers, and often advertise themselves as pregnancy resource centers, pregnancy health centers, and offer a limited amount of healthcare services, including pregnancy tests, ultrasounds, and pregnancy counseling. CPCs are often located near licensed reproductive healthcare centers like Planned Parenthood of Greater New York in an effort to disorient and confuse patients. In fact, there are CPCs in the same building as our Brooklyn Health Center and a CPC located directly across the street from our Bronx Health Center. Several years ago, we conducted a survey amongst our patients who mistakenly ended up in a CPC to better understand how they were harassed and just to get a better understanding of their experience. And what we found is that many individuals were harassed by patients, were given wrong information about their healthcare options, and expressed concerns about providing detailed information and had concerns about that information being kept confidential. Just to wrap up, again, we strongly support Intro 506 that will better understand, help the city better understand how they operate, the impact on marginalized communities, and help us all collectively prepare as we await the decision from SCOTUS that we all know would completely upend abortion rights in our country. We stand ready to support the council in executing the provisions of the bill and stand alongside advocates in doing this work. Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work. And I just have a couple of questions for you. What changes would you suggest be implemented into Intro 506?
I think many of the things that were outlined earlier today, including the hotline, ensuring that New Yorkers have access to a space where they can quickly report their experiences if they do mistakenly end up in a in one of these facilities. We definitely support the public education campaign to grow awareness around the CPCs and their behavior. And that will strongly suggest cultural competency be included in that work, that language access is prominent in developing those campaigns, that the narratives and then the messaging developed in those campaigns are targeted to the communities most impacted. And again, we stand ready in helping the department and the council in developing messaging and tailoring that campaign to make sure that it's effective.
And I know you mentioned it, certainly because Planned Parenthood offers the real services. Wanted to know, can you describe the impact of the pregnancy service centers on New Yorkers' ability to access safe and quality reproductive care?
Sure. So as folks mentioned earlier, again, CPCs operate and their goal is to delay and deny an individual's access to abortion care. We know that obtaining abortion care is extremely time sensitive. Folks who know they are pregnant should be able to access healthcare as quickly as possible, and ensuring that healthcare is of quality, is medically sound, is affordable. That is a commitment we have at Planned Parenthood of Greater New York, ensuring that all those who come through our doors have access, no matter where they are in their pregnancy. Again, CPCs bar an individual's ability to make informed decisions over their healthcare decisions because oftentimes folks will end up in the facility. They're again given wrong information about healthcare services. Sometimes they're given wrong information about where they are in their pregnancy, how many weeks they are, all again in an effort to pressure individuals from changing their mind about seeking abortion care. I mentioned earlier that we conducted a survey several years ago, and that was one of the concerns that folks raised, that they were provided this inaccurate information about where they were in their pregnancy journey, or where, all the information that we were trying to obtain regarding sexual health care. And they were often told to come back several times for different appointments, again, told different information about their healthcare options. And sometimes by the time an individual actually ends up in a actual abortion provider, depending where they are in their pregnancy, a number of things can happen, and there are studies, and we have seen that sometimes an individual who initially wanted a Medicaid abortion now has to get a surgical abortion. So there's many changes and many impacts over an individual's plan on the types of care that they want to receive because of the deceptive tactics that they experience at these centers.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will now call on Danielle Castaldi-Mika to testify, followed by Aviva Zadoff. Danielle?
Time starts now.
Hi, thank you so much for hosting this hearing today. Thank you, Chair Velasquez, all the committee members and other members who are there, Councilmember Rivera for sponsoring this legislation, and Borough President Gibson for requesting it, which is a real dream team. I have prepared written testimony that I will share, that I'll send to the committee staff, but I want to use my time to make some suggestions to the legislation, to amend the legislation, and to the implementation of it. The first is actually not a suggestion, but more just a reminder that the consequences of folks being deceived by these facilities is severe, right? Can be fatal. The irony of watching the beginning of this hearing while refreshing the Supreme Court to see if the right to abortion has been overturned at this very moment, which it has not yet. The irony of that is not lost on me. So I hope while we're considering this bill that we recognize a couple of things. The first is that DCWP doesn't need complaints to inspect. Full disclosure, I was at the city council, worked on the local law 17 legislation. That was over a decade ago, and 53 inspections over a decade does not feel particularly proactive to me. I also have a lot of concerns about the report being done by a voluntary survey. These are facilities that are generally built upon deception. So I don't know that assuming that they will answer a survey truthfully is our best bet to getting accurate information here. I do think it's important also that we ask about material goods that are being provided. One of the arguments that folks will make in favor of these facilities is that sometimes they are places where folks can access things that they might need to continue their pregnancy: baby clothes, maternity clothes, diapers, formula. Charitable organizations that provide those things are doing a public good, but not if those products come with shame, stigma, medical misinformation, or ideological bullying. I think we as a city can find a better way to meet the needs of low-income pregnant people, and we can use this opportunity to understand where those needs are better. I also recommend that we move up the final report date to match the state report, which I believe is due in January 2024. It seems like the city agencies will likely wind up partnering with State Department of Health on all of these undertakings, so we might as well get the reports out at the same time.
Time expired.
I will just add one other thing is that I was happy to hear that DCWP is interested in figuring out a broad scope of businesses that could fall under this category to study. I think that's exceptionally important. So I'll pause there.
And so I think just to clarify, the changes you would suggest to Intro 506 is matching the state report to January 2024, making it, removing the survey as involuntary, for voluntary to mandated, or can you clarify that one? Sorry.
I don't think it should be a survey.
What
I think it should be done via inspection. I think asking these facilities to fill out a survey about information that they don't want to share will not yield an accurate report. And mandating it won't get us better information either.
Got it. And I know you mentioned before, but can you highlight the impact that PSCs have on the ability to access safe and quality reproductive care?
Yeah, absolutely. If someone is pregnant, all decisions about pregnancy are time sensitive by the very nature of pregnancy. When a person becomes pregnant and wants to continue that pregnancy, accessing timely, quality prenatal care is connected not only to having a healthier pregnancy, but to reducing both maternal and fetal death. Every moment that is spent at a non-medical facility purporting to provide any sort of medical care is time where accessing that care is delayed, and it can have negative health outcomes. Conversely, if someone is pregnant and does not want to continue that pregnancy, delays in accessing abortion unnecessarily increase the procedure's complexity. It makes it far more expensive and may eliminate a person's ability to obtain care altogether. And I think collectively, this body of the city council, at least, is extremely aware of all of the negative impacts of forced pregnancy.
Definitely. Thank you so much for that.
Councilmember Velasquez, the one thing I will also add is that we are extremely supportive of the idea of the public education campaign. And I would like to echo your call to have it be available in all of the languages required by the city of New York. We are in a moment of just oceans of misinformation and anti-abortion lies and white supremacy. And the absolute least I think that the city can do is try to reach those who are most vulnerable, non-English speakers, immigrants, young people, and poor people. And that campaign needs to be in their languages, and it also needs to be in the media that they consume.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will now call on Aviva Zadoff to testify, followed by the Bronx Borough President, the Honorable Vanessa L. Gibson.
Time starts now.
Thank you, Councilmember Rivera, for introducing this bill to the committee, and thank you, Councilmember Velasquez and the Committee on Consumer and Worker Protection for convening this hearing today. My name is Aviva Zadoff, and I'm the Director of Advocacy and Volunteer Engagement at the National Council of Jewish Women New York. NCJW New York is a grassroots organization of volunteers and advocates who turn progressive ideals into action. Inspired by Jewish values, NCJW New York strives for social justice by improving the quality of life for women, children, and families, and by safeguarding individual rights and freedoms. The proposed legislation before you requires the New York City Department of Consumer and Worker Protection to report information on pregnancy service centers in the city and implement an information campaign on such centers. I come here today to testify in strong support of this passage of this bill. NCJW New York is the lead organization of the Pro-Truth Coalition. Pro-Truth is a campaign and a movement to raise awareness and fight the deceptive and dangerous tactics of fake reproductive health clinics or crisis pregnancy centers. We believe that all people have the right to know the truth about their health and their bodies so they can make an informed choice. Pro-Truth has identified about 24 pregnancy service centers currently operating here in New York City. These centers actively work to present themselves as neutral care providers, while all the while working to make it harder for pregnant people to access the full spectrum of reproductive health care, including abortion. While pregnancy service centers have existed as long as abortion has been legal, they operate in secrecy with little oversight and few regulations. Much of the information we have about these centers is based on the experiences of patients who have been to these places. While the stories we hear are powerful and are an important part of this picture, we also need to understand the larger story of what is happening when it comes to pregnancy resources in the city. This law and the study that it administers will be an important step in allowing us to understand the larger picture of where New Yorkers are receiving reproductive health care and how these facilities are operating. We also really appreciate this bill's creation of a media campaign to inform the public of pregnancy centers and what they do and do not provide. One of Pro-Truth's main tenets is to educate the public on pregnancy centers because many New Yorkers do not know that these places exist or that they are here in New York City. We strongly believe that everyone should have the knowledge and ability to decide where they prefer to receive care. As abortion access becomes more restricted across this country, we know that pregnancy centers will play an even larger role in a person's ability to access care. The barriers that pregnancy centers can create and the confusion they add to accessing abortion care is going to become an even larger issue in a post-Roe world, when even more people are coming to our city and our state to access care, and the time is even more important in being able to access the full range of reproductive options. The National Council of Jewish Women believes that everyone is entitled to the truth about their body and about their choices, and that everyone should be able to receive the highest quality of safe, accessible, and judgment-free reproductive health care that our city has to offer. We support the Council's efforts to create a mechanism that will allow us to see the full picture of where New Yorkers are receiving care and what resources these pregnancy centers are actually offering to their clients. We ask for the committee to support making this Intro 506 into law.
That was like almost perfect timing, by the way. So cool.
I try.
Super fast, too. Excellent. I'm going to take notes from you. Thank you. Thank you for coming, and thank you for testifying. Just a couple of questions. What changes would you suggest to be implemented into 506? And can you just, and I know you mentioned it in the testimony, but can you emphasize and highlight the impact of pregnancy service centers on the ability to access safe and quality reproductive care?
Sure. I would echo the comments by my fellow advocates talking about the voluntary nature of this survey, given what we know about pregnancy service centers and their desire to, obscure the truth and keep officials from actually being able to know what's happening inside of them. I also echo what Danielle spoke about in terms of material goods. And people understanding people's ability to access these goods, and which can be really important and meaningful in understanding how people are receiving the items necessary to, raise children and have a healthy pregnancy. And to the second part of your question, as has been said, we understand how important it is for people to be able to access quality care. Also, I want to emphasize the ability to access judgment-free care, and that everyone should be able to, receive somebody who wants to listen and help them in whatever ends they decide to go with their pregnancy. So they shouldn't be judged, they shouldn't be stigmatized, they shouldn't live in fear of a decision, and they should receive the care that will allow them to make choices of their own decision.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will next call on the Bronx Borough President, the Honorable Vanessa L. Gibson, followed by Elizabeth Estrada. Bronx Borough President. I think we'll move on again and then circle back to the Bronx Borough President, given the technology issues. So next, I'll call on Elizabeth Estrada, followed by Ali Bohm. Elizabeth?
Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Thank you so much for holding this hearing. Thank you to the City Council for holding the hearing, and to City Council Member Rivera for introducing this bill, and to Council Member Velasquez for overseeing this hearing, and of course to the Bronx Borough President, Vanessa L. Gibson, for calling for this hearing to discuss the harmful impact of fake clinics, AKA crisis pregnancy centers or pregnancy service centers. And my name is Elizabeth Estrada. I'm the New York Field and Advocacy Manager for the Latina Institute of New York. And at the Latina Institute, we call them fake clinics, or clínicas falsas in Spanish, but they're not clinics at all. When our activists have called to see what services they claim to provide, they tell us that they won't provide pregnancy tests for free, and that ultrasounds aren't performed at their emergent mother care location in Mott Haven, in the Mott Haven neighborhood of the South Bronx. I've lived in the Bronx for over 7 years and have visited the emergent mother care facility a few times and have observed their deceptive tactics myself, and have heard many stories from other New Yorkers across the city. We also share the experience of having never witnessed signage to indicate there are no real medical professionals on staff, as well as other tactics, including misleading advertising of free pregnancy tests, as I mentioned before, or ultrasounds to lure you into their business and away from real healthcare providers. But when entering their suite, no such resources are provided for free, only misinformation and lies. Many of these anti-abortion centers locate themselves near real healthcare clinics, as many of my colleagues have mentioned, or public hospitals that serve mostly Black and Latinx communities in low-resourced areas. Much like EMC, who is located directly across from Planned Parenthood and down the block from Lincoln Hospital. These are high traffic areas close to social services, which for me is a clear indication that they're targeting folks with low incomes. They place billboards in Spanish and immigrant neighborhoods, some buy ads on Black television, and use targeted ads on websites where they know Black and Latinx people are clicking. Crisis pregnancy centers locate themselves in lower resource neighborhoods with communities that have little to no access to healthcare. Through strategies like their urban initiative, CPCs target neighborhoods with large Black, Latinx, and immigrant communities. They locate themselves in neighborhoods near social services and comprehensive reproductive health care providers. CPCs place advertisements in their neighborhoods showing people of color offering free services or Medicaid assistance. This misleads our communities and draws them away from nearby providers and social services that offer actual comprehensive care, exasperating barriers and delaying access to real health care. Nationwide, there are about 5 clinics for every 1 abortion clinic. And in New York, that average doesn't differ, with fake clinics outnumbering real abortion providers across the state. Fake clinics disproportionately hurt Black, Indigenous, people of color, and families by adding yet another barrier to access care. Latinos face language and cultural barriers that hinder healthcare access already, and literacy that can make them be deceived by fake clinics. So I'm here to support Intro 506 and stand committed to supporting the City Council, as well as our reproductive health rights and justice advocates across the city to combat these anti-abortion centers. Thanks so much.
And thank you for testifying today. Just as I asked the other folks testifying, what changes would you suggest to be implemented into Intro 506? And once again, can you describe the impact of pregnancy service centers on New Yorkers' abilities to access safe and quality reproductive care?
Thank you, Council Member. I would echo everything my colleagues Miriam and Danielle and Aviva have suggested. I am a huge proponent of the hotline. I think anything that makes it easier for communities with a high immigrant, Black, Latinx population to simply make a phone call, whereas many of us may not necessarily have access to internet or a lot of tech literacy, that a hotline would make it much more accessible to leave a complaint or report these harmful centers, as well as a public education campaign that includes advocates from each borough working in collaboration with the City Council, whereas models that perhaps others coming in from outside of each borough may not get the message across to their community members because they're not part of the community. I would say that the stories that I've heard are that people are being delayed, held in, not forcefully held, but held in conversation when entering CPCs and talking mainly about religion, God, and one of our activists who bravely shared her story with me and a journalist talked about going into a crisis pregnancy center to receive a free pregnancy test, but was denied one and asked to pay $20. When they finally went into a counseling room, she had just lost her dad. And they basically exploited that and tried to shame her into carrying her pregnancy to term because, according to them, her father would have wanted her to carry this pregnancy. So those are just one of the stories that I've heard within our community that speak to the shame and the stigma and the coercion that these anti-abortion centers, crisis pregnancy centers, inflict on our community.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll next call on Allie Bohm to testify.
I'll have questions at some point.
Oh, sorry. Apologies. Do you want to ask questions? Sorry, apologies.
Before testifying.
Yeah, do you want to?
Ask the questions now. I've worked on this a lot.
Okay.
You know that, but I spent hours on this and days and months.
No, okay, so please ask your questions too, because Elizabeth is still on, and who else is on?
We'll unmute Elizabeth Estrada for questions from Councilmember Brewer. Elizabeth Estrada is still on.
Thank you very much. I'm late because I was speaking at a graduation, so I did not hear what the administration stated, but my staff and I, since 2011, we've been working on this issue. And we've been to every center in Manhattan pretending to be pregnant, and we've seen that there's no information, that there's no ability. Nobody's done any kind of a review as to what the law is. And I guess that's what you have found, and I assume that's what was stated earlier. So my question to follow up on the chair is, I believe these centers should be closed. And I've said that from the beginning. I know that's not necessarily legal to do, but I would close them because they are lying, they don't put the information up correctly, they actually cite themselves near family planning or other kinds of high quality centers that are appropriate for all of us seeking health for our bodies. So I guess my question is, to follow up on the chair, to be really specific, are any of them following the law? Are any of them getting cited by the department from your experience? I know the department was here earlier, but I literally have been to every one of them. My staff has been to all of them, and we've been focused on this since 2011. And we had a bill along those lines that's how it all got started, was from us in 2011.
Thank you. That question is for me. Yes.
Yes, it is.
Member. Thank you so much. You know, what I do know is that in my borough where I live in the Bronx, the emergent mother care facility is the one that's biggest and most, trafficked because it's in a high traffic area. And I have never seen signage to indicate that there are no medical staff. No actual medical professionals on staff. However, there are often folks dressed in white coats or even scrubs. And through the, research that we've done, picking up data from calling or going into these centers, we experience the same thing that you experience. And what I'm hearing you say is that, you've been working on this far longer than even I have here in the city. But I think the detriment to these organizations Danielle has spoken to, it's like, if you delay, then that means that you often create, you make care out of people's reach, right? If folks are going and taking a day off, that means that they have to figure out another day to come back. And sometimes that isn't really available to folks, especially when, if families or pregnant people are taking a day off from like an hourly wage job. So these are super harmful organizations that are changing people's lives for the worst, and we're not really seeing them provide any actual resource to our community outside of just shaming people. From the stories that I've heard in our community, you just go in there and they talk to you about God. And the thing is that they also have Spanish speaking folks in there. So not all the time, but sometimes they have Spanish speaking folks in a community that is immigrant and Spanish speaking. So they try to make their, deceptive tactics at least accessible in Spanish. And Intro 506 would do the opposite to try to really educate our community about what these deceptive clinics are doing. And so they can avoid them and just access the actual healthcare that they need.
Thank you.
I hope that helps address your question.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. We will next go to Allie Baum for testimony. Allie?
Thank you for having me. My name is Allie Baum, and I'm a policy counsel at the New York Civil Liberties Union. As this committee knows, decisions about pregnancy are time sensitive, and everybody deserves access to timely, comprehensive, and accurate healthcare information to inform those decisions. Delayed access to such information can impede the initiation of prenatal care or access to emergency contraception or abortion, which can have adverse impacts on a person's health, push care financially out of reach, and severely limit a person's reproductive health options. Intro 506 requires the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, in consultation with the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, to report on the unmet health needs facing New Yorkers and the impact that pregnancy service centers have on the ability to obtain timely and accurate health information and services. While the city does have Local Law 17, which requires pregnancy service centers to disclose that they are not medical facilities, this neutral, unbiased study will be integral to developing and supporting other strategies to support pregnant people in New York City. Intro 506 also requires the department to implement a media campaign to inform New Yorkers about what pregnancy service centers are and how to access comprehensive reproductive health services in New York City, as well as how to make a complaint if pregnancy service centers engage in deceptive trade practices. Particularly as the Supreme Court stands poised to overturn Roe v. Wade, and we expect New York City to serve as a beacon for individuals seeking care, it is more important than ever that the city inform pregnant people about where and how to obtain comprehensive reproductive health care within our borders. City Council can and should strengthen this public education campaign by requiring that the campaign be conducted in all city languages. City Council can further strengthen Intro 506 by expanding the inquiry to include questions about the ways in which pregnancy service centers may meet individuals and families' unmet resource needs. Recent studies and reporting have demonstrated that some people use pregnancy service centers as a form of conscious consumption. They are aware that these service centers exist to prevent abortion and that many are evangelical in nature, but they have already decided to continue a pregnancy and see these service centers as their only option to receive free or low-cost diapers, baby clothes, and other material goods to support a new child. Inquiring into unmet resource needs as well as unmet health needs may lead the city to other or additional policy solutions. In addition, and this has been talked about by previous witnesses, when Local Law 17 was adopted in 2011, pregnancy service centers generally did not have medical providers on staff, although many gave the impression that they were medical facilities, confusing some consumers. As a result, it made sense to define pregnancy service centers to exclude facilities where a licensed medical provider is present to directly provide or directly supervise the provision of all services that are provided at the facility. In recent years, as others have discussed, many pregnancy service centers have begun to hire medical directors and medical staff in order to escape definitions like New York City's, though they still do not provide or refer for the full range of comprehensive reproductive health care services. For this reason, City Council should consider updating Local Law 17's definition of pregnancy service center to include centers with medical personnel on staff that nonetheless do not provide or refer for the full range of comprehensive reproductive and sexual health care services. Intro 506 addresses an issue of equitable access to healthcare in New York City. Everyone deserves to receive comprehensive information about their healthcare options and to be connected to qualified providers to address their healthcare needs. Adequate and early prenatal care, timely abortion care, and emergency contraception are critical to reducing maternal mortality and morbidity rates and disparities. Understanding any gaps in access to comprehensive reproductive health and sexual health care services serves an important public health goal of improving health outcomes for all. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I will submit written testimony later, and we're happy to work with City Council members to strengthen Intro 506, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you for that, and I turn it to Councilmember Brewer.
Thank you very much. I guess my question is that having passed Local Law 17, can you be even more specific as to how it could be updated? You mentioned that in your testimony, number one. And number two, do you think these centers have a role in New York City? Obviously, I don't, but I didn't know. And how did they get, how they get funded is also questionable in my opinion. I assume it's through devious insurance measures. But can you update us on 17? And then if you have any ideas how they're funded, I'd be curious. The agency has not done any kind of oversight yet, so I don't know that they would in the future, even with this law, which I support, but I'm not sure it would even happen.
Sure. So those are great questions. Let me start with how to update Local Law 17. And I feel like I've said it and a lot of folks before me have said it, so apologies to the chair because you've now heard it like 10 times. But a big piece is updating the definition. When you passed Local Law 17, these were centers that were pretending to be medical providers that had no medical providers on staff, and so it was really easy to draw that line. They know that. So now they're hiring medical providers to, maybe show up a couple days a week, maybe just to use their license and sort of be on payroll. So then they say, and this was a challenge for the department when they testified, a lot of folks that they got complaints about had medical providers on staff, so they didn't meet Local Law 17's definition. So it is really important to update that definition, and we're happy to work with you on what that language would look like to include facilities that have medical providers on staff. As far as how these entities are funded, that is one thing I hope this study will reveal. One of the things we know is during the Trump administration, when they changed the rules for Title X, and Planned Parenthoods and other reproductive health care providers could no longer qualify. Some pregnancy service centers, I don't know whether there were any in New York, received Title X funding. Obviously, that would change with the current administration. We know that there are nationwide umbrella organizations for pregnancy service centers that do some of the funding. We know some receive funding through churches, but this is actually something that I hope that both the state study and this study will uncover. And to the extent that the language, and I apologize, I have a markup of the language and I'm not used to testifying in person anymore, so it's not with me. But to the extent that the language doesn't already capture that, that's another way to strengthen the study, would be to find out that information. And, council member, I know you have great concerns about these centers. We have great concerns about these centers. One of the things that I think is really wonderful about this study, because if you do want to do something that is more regulatory in nature, it is likely to be challenged. And so having a neutral study that says, here are the problems, here's how we solve them, is going to be really helpful for making sure that law withstands scrutiny. And so that neutral study is a good first step. And I think the answers are going to be different. If we find out that, for example, New Yorkers don't have anywhere other than these service centers to get free diapers, maybe we have a different policy solution than if we find out that actually they're not giving out diapers at all. They're just, as Elizabeth testified, bringing people in and giving them, evangelical speeches, right? Those are going to lead to very different solutions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I would like to now welcome the Bronx Borough President, Honorable Vanessa L. Gibson.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you to our esteemed Chair, Councilmember Marjorie Velasquez, and all the members of the New York City Council on the Committee on Consumer and Worker Protection, as well as our bill sponsor, Councilmember Carlina Rivera, for convening today's very important hearing. It's really an honor to be back with all of you virtually, of course, to join you to voice my support for Introduction 506. Thank you to the members of the City Council. As a former member of the body, I know how important these hearings are to make sure that our advocates and so many activists in our communities are able to really have a voice to effectuate the change that is necessary to save lives and strengthen our communities. So for far too long, access to reproductive health services has truly been under attack across this country. And with the Supreme Court poised this week to rule on the future of Roe versus Wade, we know that this is truly a call to action and attention. It is critical that the city of New York acts swiftly to ensure that every woman, every birthing individual has the right to make decisions about their body without interference, coercion, or manipulation. That is why I was proud to introduce this legislation during my time in the council with your colleague, Councilmember Carlina Rivera, to require reporting on pregnancy servicing centers, because we believe that many of these facilities that provide services to pregnant women, while having the appearance of a licensed medical facility, but do not actually have a license to provide medical or pharmaceutical services. In the past, many of these facilities obscured the services that they provided, appearing to be clinics that offer the full range of reproductive healthcare options while not actually providing access to services such as abortion care referrals and emergency contraception. In 2010, at that time, the City Council enacted legislation to regulate our pregnancy service centers more thoroughly in what is now known as Local Law 17 of 2011. This bill required these centers to state upfront the clients that they're serving, who was a licensed medical professional and practitioner, and this legislation was truly necessary to prevent these centers from misinforming women seeking reproductive health care about the services that they were offered. Women should be able to decide for themselves the very best options and alternatives when it truly comes to their own bodies without government interference, manipulation, and deception from these organizations. This bill under consideration today before your committee will expand on the legislation by requiring the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection to issue regular reports on the operation of pregnancy service centers in our city, including the information identifying each center, the services they offer, and associated partners, whether the centers enroll women, birthing individuals, benefit programs, and how they advertise and promote their services, and whether they take public funding. Additionally, the bill will require the agency to engage in a public awareness campaign, which I love, to educate the public about pregnancy service centers, the services they offer, and how to access reproductive health, including abortion care services. Women in my borough of the Bronx and across this city deserve access to the care that works best for them and their families. Access to care that is fully transparent about the services that are provided. Women have the right to control what happens to their bodies, whether that means carrying a pregnancy to term or seeking abortion care services. This bill will truly enable our city government and city residents to get a fuller understanding of what pregnancy service centers are all about. With reproductive rights under attack across this country, I am so grateful to our leaders at the federal, state, and local level, my former colleagues and new colleagues in the city council who are taking action to protect our rights, achieving equity and justice in the system. Thank you for considering this legislation, Intro 506. Thank you, Madam Chair, Councilmember Velasquez. Thank you to the members of the committee. And of course, I know how hard the staff works. So I want to thank the legislative team as well. And I look forward to working with all of you to pass Intro 506 and make sure it can be local law. Thank you so much for your time today, everyone.
Thank you. At this time, if your name has not been called and you still wish to testify, please raise your hand using the Zoom raise hand function. Seeing none, I'll turn it over to the chair to gavel out.
I want to thank everyone for showing up either virtually or in person. Thank you. Today was a tough day, but I appreciate you all for turning out, and have a great one.